args and quargs. So you can see here in this extension, or in this when I'm in this constructor, I'm giving it this argument for the title of the window, and I'm giving it these two keyword arguments, width and height. These get packed into args and quarg variable, and then I can unpack those here. I can say something like print args, and then I could also say print quargs width. This keyword argument may or may not be there. So we leverage this a lot for classes, for subclasses, for inheritance, where you might have optional arguments that you are using or you aren't using. So so that's all I'm doing here is it's getting packed in, and then I unpack it here to pass it through to the parent constructor, which is the UI.window. So that's that idea there. And I think we're good here. I probably have some error. I do. Let's check the console to see what I did wrong. Demo window has no attribute underscore window. That is very true. This shouldn't be. This should be self. It's referring to itself, and the window itself has a frame. So that was just my bad with the copy paste. So now when I save, it looks better, but it didn't start up, did it? There it is. So back where we were. All that just to get back to where we were. All right, let's get to building some widgets. So I said the first one that I want to build is a group of checkboxes. If we look at the UI, Omniverse UI documentation, we have a number of really cool widgets. We have radio buttons, and we have checkboxes. We have this thing called a radio collection, which allows you to basically say, if these radio buttons work together, only one of them should be checked on at a time. And we have checkbox, which just creates a single checkbox. It doesn't even give you a label. So this is all tedious kind of work that you need to do, especially if you're doing like a handful of checkboxes all together. I don't want to have to do this every time. So this is the reason for building this checkbox group. I'm going to build it once, and every time I want to do a checkbox group, so I'm just going to use this one. So let's take a look at the documentation here for checkbox. See, there's like very little to do with a checkbox here. Maybe there's some documentation missing there. The other place that we can look is in the code app. There is the Omni Ui Documentation, and we have a checkbox entry there. And this is where I could potentially pop this out so that we can see this a little better. So basic construction of a checkbox is just call the constructor, and that's about it. You can also set up, it also has a model stored into it where you can query the value for the checkbox. So let's get to work. I'm going to create a new file where I'm going to put this new widget, and I'm going to call it underscore, I actually want this to be plural, widgets.py, because I'm probably going to make more widgets later. Cool. Kind of slow. I don't need this linter. So VS Code is trying to like check all my code and do a refactor in case anything is using this widgets.py file that I just created. I can probably just cancel that. Cool. And then I'm definitely going to be using from Omni UI as UI in here. And the reason that I made this private, I'll get to that in a moment, Thank you for coming, MTW. I'm going to make a checkbox group. And this is going to have some constructor. And I'm going to build a widget in here. So I'll define my code in there. When the constructor is called, it'll call that build widget. Now, the reason, why is this complaining? This is fine. The reason that I made this a private module, the underscore is just a convention for saying this is a private module. Don't go using this. Is because here in the package init py, I want to do my from widgets import checkbox group. That way, anybody that's going to use this code later on, they can just do. I'm going to do the full import here. Import mc.widgets from mc.widgets. Import checkbox group. So I didn't need to go into this submodule to find it. So now that gives me this flexibility of what's going to be really interesting about this project is that I'm building this for developers, so I need to think about the API and how I'm going to expose this and make this flexible enough so that later on I can add more widgets. I can change the widgets however I want without breaking somebody else's code. So that's why I've already started out with every widget that I want to expose is going to be exposed at the root of the package, and then I can change these modules however I want to structure them. Maybe just one big file for all my widgets is not a good idea. So I can change. I have the flexibility to change that later on. So here is the checkbox group, and I think I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. It's the underscore for the module, I believe, is convention. Some tools may like I can still get to it if I insist. So let's save this. So import mc.widgets underscore widget. So this is just that I have an error. Blah, blah, blah. Well, that wasn't very useful, was it? Oh, it's plural, widgets, bam. But there's still some other issue here with checkbox group. I messed up something here. We'll come back to it. But invalid syntax line 1 of widgets.py. Silly. Import Omni UI as, and that was probably the root cause of all my issues. So yes, I can import this module. I can get at anything that I need. So, you know, Python's is more built around conventions than actual walls to keep you from doing things, so you can hack around and do things that you probably shouldn't. So that is private modules. So let's put this all back. This should be working now that I fixed that error. That was pretty gnarly error there that didn't really tell me until it was too late. Something else went wrong here. How can you add a third-party library, pip library? I will show you that once I fix this. If anybody sees what I'm doing wrong, please let me know. This is probably just because I was trying to show this in a. This is probably gonna work. Yeah, I don't know right now off the top of my head why that import wasn't working with the absolute path. It's probably some sort of circular dependency that I can't think through right now, but it's always hard to think while you're talking in front of a group of people, but this is going to work. So now that I have that UI that checkbox group, I can go ahead and just instantiate it. And that's not going to do anything yet, which is okay because I haven't told it to do anything. But now I can say something like with UI.vstack. A VStack is just a way of laying out our assets. Oops, this is the wrong one. There you are. VStack. It just lays them out vertically. So anything that I declare inside of the VStack is going to be placed right below the previous element that I've created. Whereas HStack, they're placed all horizontally. See, the declaration looks identical, but the stack is controlling how they're laid out. And then finally, HStack will just stack the elements like a deck of cards. So you can build complex controls that way with like a blue outline with different shapes. That one's generally helpful for stacking just primitive shapes to create interesting elements. So back to the code. This is the wrong one. This is the one. So a VStack, and I'm going to add a label. Yeah, this is going to be my checkbox group, right? So I saved it, updated it, looks great. And then let's add a checkbox. Bam. And I want a label after that checkbox, right? My item. Bam, that's not what I wanted. I wanted it next to the checkbox. So how do I do that? With an HStack. And that looks terrible too, right? So this is a good opportunity to introduce Inspector. There is an extension here called the Inspector window. Make sure you are looking for the window and not this other helper extension. If I open that up, I can choose any of the windows that are currently loaded in that are open in code right now, or any of the other apps. And I should probably name my window something a little bit more useful. So let's do that now. That was in here. All right. Except my window died. That for a minute. I don't know where my window went. All right, let me do. There it is. Where'd you go? Oh, ha! It's way over here. This is the problem with trying to do everything on one screen. All right, let's try that again. Inspector. I don't think there's a way to open this currently from any other like window dialog or anything like that. Oh, there it is. Sweet. So now I can choose demo window. And it didn't do anything, but if you click on one of these three, it can start showing you information. So here is my my wrong demo window because I had another demo window in here. Sorry guys, this is, I was experimenting with this earlier, so I had another extension that I was playing with. Let's do this one more time. Still the wrong one. All right, last try. It is really loving that window. All right, one more workaround is I'll just rename this and it'll have a new handle. Inspector window, where did you go? There we go. Demo window 2, yay, there it is. All right. Yeah, renaming always works. So this is what my layout looks like. So this helps me understand why this didn't really lay out the way that I anticipated, right? It didn't lay out this label next to this checkbox. This is because right now it's set up to take up the most amount of space on here on this window. So every widget is expanding to the max. I think that this is probably the first time a lot of you have seen this, so I will share a little bit more in depth of what this does. There's this. This is cool. 3D rendering of your UI. You can explode it. You can also set a range of like levels, layers of widgets that you want to show. You can show the color version of it as well. So the other thing you have here is the outliner, which shows you exactly the layout of what I've created here. So my two V-stacks, I can get rid of one of these V-stacks because oh, that's fine. And then the checkbox and label. This property window shows me properties for each of these widgets. Whoops. So things that I can do, for example, let's choose this label. I can center left top, so I can change the centering of that. I can word wrap, I can change the text on it. I want to get that wireframe back to show you. I don't know where the wireframe went for this. Oh, it's probably because I set this to 0. There we go. Let's set this to a bigger number just in case. So that was just the range of the depth of the layout that I want to show. So here you can see that I set the alignment to left top, so my label will move to the left top of that that section, and it's also updating here on my window as well. So I'm live editing this window using this inspector too. Yes, Baby Maker, you called it. You can live edit. So sentence I never thought I would say. Anything can happen on a live stream. So yes, Baby Maker. So what I wanted to show you here is that these are expanding, but I can also change, for example, the height of this H stack. So now we're getting a little bit closer, right? A little closer. I can change the height of this one. And so this is going to take up, it's not going to expand. It's going to use, it's just going to expand to the minimum that it needs to fill to draw the contents of the stack. How does that interact with your code? I have no idea. This is voodoo magic to me, but that is something I can find out for you if you're really curious. You could also dig into this widget inspector and window inspector. What I think it's doing is it's just, I imagine this is just overriding on top of all of my widgets. So you can edit as this code is running live. We have the styles. I haven't gotten into that yet, but styles are cascading styles, so you can have multiple points of entry for overriding styles, and I imagine that this is also just overriding the properties on these widgets after my code has run. So pretty sure that like I'm not updating these properties on the iteratively on for this window. I'm only doing it on construction, so this is probably going after the fact on demand, interactively changing those properties. All right. So let me finish this inspector and we'll do the pip. So this is, so yeah, so that's how we can tweak these. I can also do this with the checkbox. I want this width to be start out as 0, and I also probably want the I think I can do this all from one go. If I set the H stack width to 0, there we go. So I can just change the width and height on my stacks, and that will condense everything down. And then later on, I'll add some margins and some padding to really make this pretty. But you can see here that this is much closer to what I'm going for. It's not responsive, but that's okay. I'll add that later. This is just a good place to start, and then once I have that laid out, I can decide what should expand and what shouldn't expand when the window is opening, instead of everything expanding and I'm totally losing control of what's going on. You can check checked and enabled states to test those here. You can see the computed dimensions for this, which is great. And styles, you can come in here to any of these and add a style. Oops, I don't know what I clicked on. So for example, I can set color to any color I want, and that is affecting the color property of all the children of this V stack. So then I can come also to this label here and add another color. And you can see here that it already changed. So this is what we mean by cascading, is that this parent is applying its style onto all of its children, and then the children can also have their own styles that override the parent's opinions. Can these styles be found inside of your extension directory? You can add styles to anything in the code, so I'll show you that in a moment. Let me write that down. I mean, we're definitely going to hit it. We only have 20 minutes left, but I think we'll we'll get to it. So how do you apply styles in code? Any other questions? I'm gonna do the pip thing right now. That's all I really had to show for the inspector. Yeah, feeling pretty good. I've never tried this copy button. That sounds like it might be handy. Hey, look at that. Copied the syntax for the style. So, very cool. All right, if there's no other questions, I will drop this inspector for a moment, and we can look at the pip, because this has come up a couple of times this week already. Omni Kit Pip API. So there's two ways to pip install in Kit. One way would be to use the API, and you can do Omni Kit Pip API install and add it to and add it that way. That will add it to the embedded Python environment that we have running. The other way that you can do it is that you can add it to an extension TOML. So this is using pip. You could obviously also just install it, download the version that you need of a particular Python package, and add it to your sys Python path, so that gets picked up as well. Then there's that's just, hey, I need this Python library to be able to develop with. Then the other side of the coin is, okay, well, now I've made this cool extension. Now I want to share it with people. How do I get them this Python package as well? So let's take a look at this. I'm going to copy that into my extension TOML. Config extension TOML. List of additional directories with pip archives to be passed into pip. We don't need that right now. And I'm going to include, I want to include something cool, like something that I might actually be able to use here. Maybe font awesome Python package. That's a thing, right? So pip install font awesome. And if you're not familiar with font awesome, these are just what do you call these things? They're not emojis, are they? It's just an icon library. They come in like these icon sheets, and you can access it through the API with just fa.icons and then the name of an icon. So if I go to the website, that's not the one. This one. They have all these free icons. I don't know. Python. Hey, there's a Python one. So I can do fa minus Python, and I can show that on a button. I haven't actually tested this with Omniverse yet, so that might be an interesting test to see if these icons will show on our widgets. So let's just install that, because I think it'll be a pretty small one. So pip install font awesome. Font awesome. I don't need any of this other stuff. I'm going to use the online index. This thing's whoops. Really? I thought this would be Python syntax, but it's lowercase true. This is going to use PyPy, basically, by default, I think, and we'll check on that later. But this thing's going to say, hey, don't use this, set it to false, not recommended. And it's a valid concern. The install should only happen the first time. If it's going to check to see if it's there. If it is there, and you don't need to install it. If it's not there, it'll go ahead and install it. So this should be pretty smart. The reason that this is saying don't use the online index is because imagine you have hundreds of extensions and everybody is doing this. And the first time you start up create, it's just sitting there downloading a bunch of Python packages. So we really want to avoid that. That'd be a horrible user experience. So that's why we're saying don't do this. For now, if you're developing, and maybe you're going to share this with a friend, I think do it. This is probably the easiest way to get started. But the recommendation, and I think that's in this document that I was looking at, is actually it's going to be in one of these, in the Python embedded Python one. It's going to say blah blah blah. At build time, you should basically download these Python extensions and put that code in your extension and ship it with whatever Python packages you need. That way we avoid that download headache. But this also means that if you have some compiled Python code, you need to have the Windows, Linux, and potentially Mac OS at some point versions of these Python packages, so that people can, so that they work on every platform. So this is something that I think we're still talking about, but this is the recommendation today. So let's go back. Yes, we're going to use that. Maybe this already did it. So did it complain about anything? Hey, look at that. Font Awesome was successfully installed. So just like that, we've already got it. And again, like, we totally missed it because I just saved here and it went ahead and installed it when it hot reloaded. So this stuff is pretty magical, pretty effortless when you get into the groove of it. So now I can go ahead and use that in my code here, and the example is something like that. So extension, after I've created my window, let's do this thing. I think this is basically font awesome is supposed to be like text, so I could probably just put it into a label and it'll work. Let's get rid of this search filter here, and here it printed out the question mark, which is what I got on the web too, and it's not a thumbs up. But let's try Python. Was it FA Python? Blah, blah, blah. So I don't actually know how to use this thing. See, they put a question mark there too. That's weird. Let's go to the GitHub and find out if maybe there's more usage instructions here. Nope. Am I totally overlooking? Download the font awesome character mapping and generate a Python formatted version of it. Save this file as icons.py. Okay, well, that's not nice. So I need to find that code and run it. Well, I'm not going to do that right now. I am curious. Maybe next week or the next time I can show you guys this with this working. But we can't see that the import did work. All the code is there. Yeah, the package installed correctly, and it only installed the first time. There's no additional shout out here saying that it installed multiple times. Cool. Any questions? Yeah, I don't think you need archive dirs for the most simple case. So go ahead and just comment that out, and you won't need it. Yeah, pip archive is where we have the Python packages that come installed with Omniverse. I think there's documentation here. Nope. Anyways, here's the pip archive. And that is the library that we ship. Let's see. Omni.kit, pip archive. Yeah, I don't. There it is. So these are the ones that we have: NumPy, Pillow, Pill. That's where it reads them from. And then yours, because I'm pretty sure Font Awesome doesn't come into here. Anything that you download will go into another repository of packages that you've downloaded that are housed only in your in your Omniverse installation. So that's why if you don't properly share these Python packages that you're using, people won't be able to use it. Cool. So if you were to use the second method, where do you call that second method? Oh, the second method, I use it more for like, I just want to use a library for scripting. I would do the import omni kit pip API, and then do the install command, the install function. And that way the library gets pulled down and it's added to my Python path for Omniverse, and I can experiment with it. I'm pretty sure that once I've installed something this way, it'll also be available to all my extensions. So for example, I installed PyTorch the other day, and so that should just work too. See, it's still there. So really don't. Both methods work to just if you're just starting to develop and you just need to have that code available so you can start coding. Both methods will work. You don't necessarily have to add it to the extension immediately, but this is probably better practice just so that you don't forget what your extensions are using. Yeah, you don't want to put this in your extension code because I think it will try to reinstall it potentially. I don't remember what the policy is for this one, if it re-downloads every time or not. No, it doesn't look like it. But there is an upgrade and there are different flags for this one. All right. We got like 5 minutes left. I can keep going on some UI stuff here. Got a little bit into this, right? I hope this at least was a good start for you all. Let's go ahead and update those widths and heights that I had set up in the inspector. There we go. So now I got my scrunched group. Is there another question? How can you use the return value of the REST request to build a dynamic UI? And then like after the user clicks a button, you query an API and add something. There's different ways we do that with the asset browsers. These are pulling from an online source and populating those widgets. So yeah, when you build the UI, it depends whether if you want it on a button click, you can absolutely do that. I think these will hit an API when you click, right? Double click for an external link and it'll open a browser. It'll just automatically download depending if you're logged in or not. Um, so yeah, that I think is pretty well covered in these. I would look at asset provider. There's the Sketchfab, TurboSquid, Actor Core ones, and asset store. There might be code in there as well, but it's pretty much what you would expect. Just you can use the request library in Python, make the call. You'll get probably some JSON format data, and then you use that to as the data model for your widgets. So we could definitely do something like that, an example like that in the future if that's helpful. I'm totally not equipped with an API right now to do that one. Are there paid extensions? Paid extensions will be coming, but no. What we have the exchange in the launcher. What we'll need to build out is for you to be able to download extensions from there, and then eventually there may be an opportunity to monetize, not necessarily monetize for NVIDIA, but for users to charge, and you could be creative and also set up ways to charge for things through the asset store as well. So there are ways to do that today if you wanted to do a paid extension, but it'll definitely be more streamlined in the future. All right, so I want to just show a little bit of API here for the widget that I'm building. So if you guys, I might run over maybe 5-10 minutes, but if you guys want to stick around, I will show how to start building out the API for this checkbox group. So I'm going to take in a group name and checkbox options. This is going to be a list of strings, and both of these are required arguments, and this one is going to be string. So we're in Python 3. Totally recommend using type hinting to, especially if you're writing an API like this, so that people that use your code will be able to, they'll have an easier time with it. So in my demo window now, I can provide my checkbox group is the name of the group, and checkbox options is going to be red, blue, green, and I think that's good. Now I go back to my widgets file. I'm going to close this because I don't need it anymore. And so now I'm taking in these arguments. I'm going to save these as instance variables. And checkbox options is equal to checkbox options. Cool. Then here, when I build my widget, I'm going to use those. So for my label, I'm going to use self.groupName. And again, this is Python 3, so I can use f strings, which are awesome. And then for my checkbox, I don't need to do anything there. But what I do want to do is I want a for loop for item in checkbox options. I'm going to have an h stack, a checkbox, and a label with the item name. Right? Now we come over here and bam, look at that. So cool. Quiet group today, by the way. Nobody talking, just chat. Cool. So now we got a misclicker. No problem. Happy to have you. Any questions so far? So now you can see that it's starting to take shape. I've got this custom widget now that all I need to do is give it a label for a name for the group and a list of checkboxes that I want, and I can get this. And this is going to be much better in the long run, because in this widget and in this extension, I'm going to figure out how to do all the styling that I want for this. I want to do like an indentation here for these so that they fit in a group. I also have plans to do a parameter for like maybe number of columns, so I can give it like 20 checkboxes, and I want them in 4 columns, and it'll spread out these evenly into 4 columns if I want. So you know, if you're somebody that likes to use checkboxes or checkbox groups, this is going to save you a ton of time to just use this one widget instead of building this out yourself every time. While there is probably no coding for Omniverse book yet, Bookie, any recommendations for materials to learn this? It looks to be Python based. Coding for Omniverse book, yeah. Somebody should write one. That'd be cool. Just general just, you know, documentation. We've got the documentation for learning. I'm going to be doing these streams fairly regularly and doing tutorials as well. And I'm happy to assume that they're not necessarily assume, but I do love to dig into Python and explain how things work. So I will be covering Python in general as well. And then there's a lot of great YouTube series for learning Python these days that I think are good. I don't have any off the top of my head for to recommend right now though, but I can see what's out there and recommend one if that's helpful. Any other questions? How do all these Py files fit together? It's all just declarative? Not you might need to clarify that a little bit. What, as in how do the extensions come together, or in my extension itself, how I'm using these? Everything becomes event-based? Yeah, right. So there is a lot going on under the hood as far as events and all that we don't even need to worry about, right? All I'm telling is I'm building these UIs in a very declarative fashion. I'm not even holding on to any of these objects that I'm creating, and yet here it is, and it's working for the most part. You know, it doesn't do anything yet, but yeah, there's the Omni UI library is handling all of that for me. Then these classes do have, let's take a look here. Let's go back to the Omni UI documentation. Nope, that's the wrong one. These classes do have, let's take a look at button, for example. And these inherit from other classes, so not all the properties are here. But you know what? I have a better way to do this. If I come over here, because we have IntelliSense and all that hooked up, I can just click on here, and it'll take me to the implementation. So here I can see that there is a mouse pressed function, so I can register a function to be called whenever the mouse is pressed on this checkbox. There's also a model in here for each of these checkboxes. Does this one have it? You can specify a model, and this model has a onValueChanged function. So whenever I can add a value change function, and whenever the value changes on here, then I can have my UI react to those events. You can absolutely store any state that you want. So my extension is holding on to the window, so I could store state on the window itself for any of its children that I may need to hold on to. So eventually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a model that is going to tell me when any of these checkboxes are changed, and it's going to tell me the current state of the group, which checkboxes are currently checked. And so I want to be able to hold on to that model so that I can query it whenever I need to. Oh, and you're asking save state as in serialization. We have where is this gonna be? User settings. So we have a user settings file. We also have, I believe we have properties stored with the apps themselves that it's basically a key value store. So you give it a name. Let's see, maybe I'll open this up. One moment, please. I'm just pulling this up off screen for a sec. User.toml. Well, I can't find this right now. But that's okay. I know one more place to look. Okay. These yeah, so these are settings for particular extensions You can also see, trying to see if there's a better example of the syntax here. This is an app configuration file. It's a kit file. Here we go. So when you're running command line, you can launch kit and give it these app window height, and typically you would do like extension, your extension ID, and then a parameter that you want to save, and you can store that. I don't know why I went through all of this roundabout to show you that it is just, there's an easier way to demonstrate this, sorry. It's import carb, there's a settings object, get settings. And then from there, it's a key value store, so you can do, I wonder if I can just navigate that from my extension better. There's going to be a C++ library, so I don't know how well I'll be able to dive into this. Whoops, that's not, I messed that up. It's carb.settings. Pretty sure. Yeah. Carb is the Carbonite SDK. We briefly talk about it, I think, in overview. Yeah, Carbonite. So that's the C++ SDK that does a lot of the, the things that need to be fast are written in there. So everything is C++ backed, and that's what keeps everything moving fast, but also very accessible by being able to develop with Python code too. All right. We are over time. Any final questions? Sweet. Unblocked, onward. Good to hear. No problem. So next week we have another developer live stream, so that event will be up on the events section in Discord for you to see. We'll also do an announcement on the forum, and then I'll be doing this every other week. So look forward to more of these. All right. Thanks, everybody.